In the vast expanse of human history, some names transcend the barriers of time and resonate with a legacy that echoes through centuries. One such figure is Hypatia of Alexandria. Philosopher, mathematician, and astronomer, she stood as a beacon of wisdom during an era when women were often confined to the shadows. But one question has intrigued scholars and storytellers alike for centuries. Why did Hypatia, a woman of unparalleled intellect, never marry? Was it a conscious choice driven by philosophy, or was it a reflection of the tumultuous times she lived in? Today, on Chronicles of Legends, we unravel the mystery behind Hypatia's decision not to marry, examining her life, her philosophies, and the historical context that shaped her choices. Who was Hypatia? To understand why Hypatia did not marry, we must first understand who she was. Born around 350 to 370 AD in Alexandria, Egypt, Hypatia was the daughter of Theon, a renowned mathematician and scholar. From a young age, Hypatia was immersed in the world of knowledge, nurtured by her father's dedication to science and philosophy. Her brilliance was undeniable. She mastered the intricacies of mathematics, particularly geometry and algebra, and became an expert in astronomy. But Hypatia's intellect didn't stop there. She was also a philosopher, deeply influenced by Neoplatonism, a school of thought that sought to connect the material world with the divine through intellectual and spiritual pursuit. By adulthood, Hypatia had surpassed her father's achievements. She became a revered teacher at the famed Alexandrian school, where she lectured on Plato, Aristotle, and other great philosophers. Her reputation spread across the Roman Empire, attracting students from distant lands eager to learn from her. But despite her influence and the admiration she garnered, Hypatia never took a husband, a decision that has sparked curiosity for centuries. Hypatia's dedication to knowledge. Hypatia's life was defined by an unrelenting pursuit of knowledge. In the world of ancient Alexandria, where intellectualism was revered, Hypatia stood at the pinnacle of academic achievement. It's believed that Hypatia viewed her commitment to learning as a sacred calling, something that transcended the ordinary expectations of life, including marriage. To many philosophers, particularly those in the Neoplatonist tradition, intellectual and spiritual purity was paramount. Marriage, with its worldly attachments, was often seen as a distraction from the ultimate goal of understanding the universe and one's place within it. For Hypatia, the pursuit of wisdom was the highest form of existence, one that left little room for personal relationships that could pull her focus away from her intellectual pursuits. By dedicating herself wholly to the life of the mind, Hypatia embodied a kind of intellectual celibacy. Her refusal to marry wasn't necessarily a rejection of love or companionship, but rather a deep commitment to her work, a sacrifice willingly made to attain the highest levels of wisdom. The role of women in ancient society. The societal expectations for women during Hypatia's time were clear. Marriage, motherhood, and the management of the household were the primary roles assigned to them. Intellectual pursuits, especially in the realms of philosophy and science, were often reserved for men. Yet Hypatia defied these conventions. Unlike most women of her time, Hypatia not only participated in the academic world, she dominated it. Her decision not to marry can be seen as a rebellion against the traditional roles imposed upon women. By remaining unmarried, Hypatia preserved her independence, her ability to teach, and her intellectual freedom. In a way, she became a symbol of female empowerment in a male-dominated society, demonstrating that a woman's worth wasn't tied to her marital status, but to her intellect and contributions to humanity. This rejection of societal norms came at a cost. Hypatia's public prominence and her decision to remain single made her a target, particularly as religious and political tensions grew in Alexandria. As Hypatia's fame grew, so too did the unrest in Alexandria. The city was a melting pot of religious and political ideologies, and by the early 5th century AD, tensions between the newly dominant Christian faith and the traditional pagan practices of the city were at a boiling point. Hypatia, though not openly antagonistic toward Christianity, was deeply associated with a Neoplatonist philosophy, which had its roots in paganism. Her refusal to marry may have also contributed to the perception that she was different from other women, a perception that, in a highly religious society, could easily be twisted into something negative. The Church, led by Cyril, the Patriarch of Alexandria, saw Hypatia as a threat. Not only was she a prominent intellectual, but she also advised Orestes, the Roman prefect, who opposed Cyril's increasing influence in the city. In 415 AD, these tensions reached a tragic climax. Hypatia was brutally murdered by a Christian mob, her body torn apart in one of the most shocking acts of violence in ancient history. While the reasons for her murder were largely political and religious, it's impossible to ignore the role her gender and unmarried status may have played in the violent hostility directed toward her. The legacy of Hypatia. So, why did Hypatia never marry? The answer lies at the intersection of her intellectual dedication, her rejection of societal norms, and the tumultuous religious environment in which she lived. Hypatia chose to devote her life to the pursuit of knowledge, a path that left little room for the obligations of marriage. Her legacy as a scholar, a teacher, and a woman who defied the conventions of her time endures to this day. Hypatia's story is more than just the tale of a brilliant mind. It's a testament to the power of choice and the sacrifices that come with following one's true calling. In a world that often sought to silence women, Hypatia's voice rang out loud and clear, echoing through the ages. Her choice to remain unmarried wasn't one of isolation or loneliness but of freedom, the freedom to think, to teach, and to inspire generations to come. Subscribe to Chronicles of Legends for more fascinating stories of history's greatest figures. This is the story of Hypatia of Alexandria, the woman who chose knowledge over convention, intellect over tradition, and left an indelible mark on history.